Thank you for coming today to our Study Abroad session. My name is Dan Albertson. I am an Associate Director in the Office of Study Abroad here at the University of St. Thomas. I recognize a number of you that I spoke to over the lunch hour during the info fair downstairs. So hopefully we will add some more to what we might have talked about there or other things you've heard about Study Abroad at St. Thomas here today. Just so I get a sense of who I have in the room. So how many of you have studied abroad, worked abroad, been abroad for some other purpose than vacation? A few. Every year it's more and more parents who have. How many of you have sent a student abroad to study already? All right, a few. Great. So many of you will probably know a little bit what that's like. So I know that your students are not even here fully at St. Thomas yet. They will be in a short month or so. So why am I talking to you about already sending them away? And the reason is 59% of Tommies make study abroad part of their experience here at St. Thomas. So what that means is that in the next 4 years, maybe even today, your student is going to come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking about going abroad for a January, for a semester, for a year. And we want you to have a little idea about how to respond to that and what that's going to be like here at St. Thomas, and to help you get an understanding of how students make that a part of their 4-year plan here at St. Thomas. So what I'm going to start with is a short video that was made by one of our former peer advisors in our office, a former student worker, studied abroad 3 times. His name's Nick. He was a pre-med student. He studied abroad on this public health program with one of our faculty people in Uganda. He also spent a semester in Denmark and a short-term program in Costa Rica with one of our faculty persons. So I'll let Nick talk about his experience quick here.
At 1 in the morning, I stood a wide-eyed and naive 19-year-old in the delivery room of a Ugandan hospital. The craziness was apparent as 4 women gave birth inside the room. Another 4 midwives and nurses ran around while the normally lighthearted OBGYN, Dr. Beckson, decided on whether or not to perform a cesarean section. The hustle of the delivery room continued well into the night, and soon enough, my eyes were bloodshot. I walked over to the calmer side of the room to take a break, where my tired eyes caught the infant warmer. I went up to the machine and looked inside to see a newborn swaddled in a tiny pink blanket. She was calm despite the extensive ordeal she had just experienced. After about 30 seconds, I returned to everybody on the other side of the room, but my mind wandered back to this person born only a few moments earlier. My pensive side reflected on this unknown child. Where was she from? What was her family like? I couldn't help but think, what kind of a life was she destined to live? How much of it was in her control, and how much of it has been predetermined by the circumstances in the society around her? I grapple with these questions still today. The concepts of power and privilege seemed more evident to me then, in her life, than in any situation I had previously encountered in my own. My perspective on society and subsequently the world changed because of my time in northern Uganda. In that moment and in the period of reflection after, I was paralyzed by many different thoughts that I was introduced to and was now aware of. After deeper contemplation, I started to see myself become less self-serving and less self-centered. I had always wondered why I'd felt this urge to become a doctor, and I didn't really understand why at that point in time. As I look back on it, this was the first time that I began to understand the power of empathy. Empathy is a word that gets used a lot, but I didn't grasp the depth of that word until that moment. I became cognizant of what it means to care about others, and I started to notice the great influence that indifference and furthermore fear can have in my life. I never learned the name of this little girl, but I didn't need to. She inspired and sparked a change within me to understand how indifference and fear play a role in my life. It was enough to motivate me to critically think about what I believe in and to be courageous for what I believe is right, something I'm not so sure I would have comprehended without her. I think the namelessness is a poignant reminder of the delicate nature of this thing called life.
This is obviously very specifically Nick's experience, but what this illustrates is the type of experience our students have when they study abroad. That study abroad now is really focused on individualized to the students' goals, really focused on outcomes, and we really want students to be going in thinking about how this helps them both academically and as they grow as individuals here at St. Thomas. So study abroad here at St. Thomas, we really are not trying to replicate what we're doing here on campus in another location, but to do something different that we can't do here, to use the place where the course is to learn in a different context, to learn something new, to push our students into new areas of learning. So really it's going to be a deeper dive than what we can do here. So some of our programs, especially those shorter term ones like January, are really going to be quite intense and focus in on one single topic. Nick, as he talked about, really was able to learn about the differences and similarities of healthcare systems, to learn how understanding a local culture, a local people, changes how you care for them, and really to understand this idea of challenge and opportunity and what it means to be a doctor serving a community. Another big thing is that students will find a new perspective of themselves. Many students will come back with newfound independence, newfound self-confidence, that they're going to be put into challenges that they're not used to here at St. Thomas. That typically, quite quickly our students become quite comfortable here, getting to class, living their daily lives. For study abroad, that's not going to be the case. Even in what I might describe as the most similar circumstances, students are going to be confronted with a new culture, a new place, a new people, oftentimes even a new language. Certainly, our programs are really developed on developing intercultural competency and cross-cultural communication. We do that with a lot of courses on campus, but we really do it in context at our study abroad programs. Another big thing is really about career preparedness. You're going to hear this from our career development people as well, but actually our students who study abroad have a 20% higher likelihood of being employed at time of graduation than students who don't study abroad. That it really is this idea of developing some of those soft skills, certainly in terms of working across difference, working with people of different cultures and backgrounds. And you might remember on my, I think, second slide of the presentation here that I mentioned 59% of students at St. Thomas study abroad, which might make you think, oh, okay, yeah, so that doesn't make you that unique. But that's incredibly high here. Nationally, it's actually 10% of students study abroad. So it really does differentiate you from all of the students who are out there. I think a big reason is that being here in St. Paul, in Minnesota, you tell a student, in January, go anywhere else, and they're like, yeah, I'm pretty on board with that, is why we get so many students abroad, especially during January. Another big thing is that it's designed to be integrated into the St. Thomas experience. So students, we want to be thinking about how it fits in their four-year plan. If I talked to you at lunch today, I probably talked about how January programs are quite easy to fit in because it falls outside the sequence of semester courses. So those are really quite easy to fit in any time. With semester-length programs, we really do focus in on how it fits into the sequence of all your classes here at St. Thomas. So for instance, you might have heard about the Roman Power program, which is in fall of the sophomore year, which is built around fulfilling requirements in the core curriculum and even has Organic Chemistry 1 for students who are in certain science and engineering where they need to be in that sequence to be able to continue on in their courses. This is just one example of the programs where we really are trying to do that. There are other programs for other majors and other schools outside the College of Arts and Sciences that are really going to be focused in on fitting that into their four-year goal. Our students who are student athletes in choir, in musical ensembles, they're able to study abroad as well. So certainly athletes, we look at the off-season. Winter athletes, obviously more difficult because they cross both, but we certainly have worked with them on summer programs and on some short-term embedded programs as well. And actually, 90% of our students are fulfilling requirements towards their major, minor, or core curriculum while they're studying abroad. Really, students have to try not to take something that counts for them, and sometimes they do because they really want to be on that program. And we make sure they're aware of that and know that they will be fulfilling those requirements at another time. Another important point is that for semester and year-long programs, financial aid does apply to all of these programs. And for those programs, the cost will be similar to a semester here at St. Thomas. We also have a number of study abroad specific scholarships that we encourage all of our students to apply to. And that's always done basically during the same application period as applying to a particular program. We have a number of St. Thomas signature programs, the Rome Empower program, which is the one I just mentioned for fall of the sophomore year. We also have two programs that we've developed with the Opus College of Business, the Shanghai Business Semester, which is in spring of the junior year, London Business Semester, which is fall of the junior year, Catholic Studies in Rome, which is a spring semester program at our Bernardi campus for Catholic Studies minors and majors. Numerous faculty-led programs. Over January, we send between 15 and 25 programs with St. Thomas faculty. Every January abroad, those do change year to year. One that is a constant and is offered this year specifically for first-year students is that Theology 101 program in Rome. The Rome Empower, Catholic Studies, and Theo 101 all take place at our Bernardi campus in Rome, and many, many others. So we have some that are embedded, some that are over summer. These are just a start of a few of those that we really highlight for our students. Many of our programs also have hands-on learning internships, which that Shanghai Business Semester, students complete an internship while they're studying in Shanghai. Some will have field work. Typically every January, especially, we'll have some field intensive courses. Like this January, we have a cognitive psychology course in Hawaii where students will be studying humpback whales while they're there. We also have a biology program that's a field-based program in Costa Rica. A number that have service learning components, and that's actually included in our London Business Semester, where all of our students complete their Business 200 requirement, which requires 40 hours of service to an organization, and they do that in London. Certainly many will have a language component. Our semester programs, if they're in a non-English speaking country, students will take a credit-bearing language class because it really is important to, of course, communicate, but also to understand how language affects the culture and affects you as an outsider coming into that place. And certainly all of our programs are really focused on intercultural communication, intercultural agility, and really learning how that applies to everything else they will do even after the program is done. So, are you ready to send them off somewhere, anywhere? Maybe not today, but maybe in 4 or 5 months. So certainly as parents, as family of students, you play a huge role in this process for them. They're going to come to you with ideas, with questions, looking for certainly support, open-mindedness, that when they come to you and they say, hey, I'm thinking about going to Shanghai for a semester in the Shanghai Business Semester, don't respond and say, why don't you go to London? Say, great, Shanghai, that's awesome. Tell me why you want to go to Shanghai. And really be there for them. Ask them questions. Ask them why. Help them really articulate why they're choosing to go on a particular program, because that actually will help them in their experience while they're there, because it can really help articulate their goals, their expectations, and you being there as that support system will be really important. As you get into those moments when they're about to leave, remember that they're embarking on this and they're probably nervous, you're probably scared, and be that support system for them. You know, don't tell them, no, I don't want you to go. Be like, no, have a great time. I'm here for you when you need me. I'll be here for you when you get back. You're going to be a huge role in this throughout their college experience while they're studying here in St. Paul, but especially true while they're abroad. We do have a few minutes for questions. I have an immediate arm all the way in the back. Yep. So we focus on those because it's a short list. We work with outside partners on literally hundreds of programs to other locations. And so we work with students to really find programs that will fit their individual goals and experiences. Just like our St. Thomas programs for semester, the financial aid does apply, and the cost will be similar to a semester here. And so we offer programs on all 7 continents, every single term, oftentimes through external partner programs.
Follow up on that question. My son took some of the science classes, and where you can't go on a 4-year track on that, how far in advance do you need to work with other programs to get approval by faculty here that will come towards their major?
So planning, we would say about a year in advance. It's good to start the conversations as early as possible. There are some things that are limited by how far in advance we can get information. For instance, course listings. We don't have the exact course schedules for St. Thomas for 2020, 2021 yet, so we definitely don't have them for foreign universities. But I would say starting the conversations early, starting the planning, getting approvals about a year in advance. Yeah?
Do you have any St. Thomas ones you can tell us about that are specific for engineering students?
We do. So we have 2 programs that go over the summer that are senior design programs. And these are in Jordan and in Peru, where a team of engineering majors will go to these places, work with the community to tackle a specific problem and develop a project to answer that problem. So they actually, last year, 2018, was the first time that we were in Jordan, and they've developed a design and a prototype that is being developed to be used by this community. And then they did the same thing this summer. I actually don't know what they completed this summer because they got back last week, and I have yet to hear what their design was, but those are 2 that are specifically for engineering. In January, they change every year. This year, we have one that is going to the Mediterranean region to look at Byzantine, Islamic, and Christian mechanics and architecture throughout history. Yeah?
So there's one, the German one, is that like an outside program? Or?
It depends on which one you're talking about. So we have partnerships in Germany, specifically with a engineering school in Trier, Germany. So that one is a St. Thomas partnership, but we also have outside programs in Germany as well. Yeah?
How many kids usually go on these?
So in a year, we send about 1,000 students abroad.
I mean, like per each?
So on ones that are faculty-led in January, the average number is typically 18 to 22. On our semester programs, it varies by the program. London Business is our largest program typically, in right around 40 students. Roman Power, about 30 to 35. And then the other ones are going to be a little bit smaller, usually 10-ish. So it depends on the program. There are some programs that anything that is run by St. Thomas, we do have a maximum number, literally, of beds. And there are programs that will receive more applications than we have spots. And so in that case, there is every program has an application process to make sure they meet the eligibility requirements. For any program that does have a cap, there will often be an interview process with the faculty leaders of that program, and they make the decisions on that. For our outside provider programs, many of those there is not a cap because, for instance, let's say Bond University in Australia, which is quite popular with our students, they're a university of around 20,000 students. One more student doesn't really make a difference for them. They can handle that. For our programs where in Rome, for instance, our Bernardi campus there, we have 35 beds. No more, so we can't handle any more than that on any program that we host there. All right, I think that's exactly our time. Thank you for coming. I'll stay up here if you do have any questions. Otherwise, I believe you have another session to go to that starts in about 5 minutes.